Good day, grade 9. So for today, we'll be discussing structural elements of drama, or specifically the one act play. So we're down to our fifth lesson for the term. And our learning competency for today is identify 10 elements of drama. Examples are plot, characters and characterization, setting, theme, dialogue, mood, spectacle, music, diction, and point of view to achieve organic unity. Also, we are going to tackle at the same time a similar competency but on a different level wherein you are expected to analyze literary text, drama in particular, as expression of individual and communal values within 15 structure, context, plot, characters, characterization, setting, theme, dialogue, mood, spectacle, music, diction, point of view, conflict, narrative techniques, sign and referent, binary oppositions, and organic unity. And for this lesson, the literary learning targets rather are I can identify the elements of drama, I can locate drama elements in the scene, I can explain how elements create unity, and I can identify one structural element in the drama, plot, character, or conflict. I can explain how the structure element helps reveal individual or communal values in the drama. I can cite specific lines or scenes from the drama to support my explanation. So to begin with, we'll be talking about first the plot. So the first structural element of a plot, well, when we talk about structure, we already know it. It's aka the form. Remember lesson number 2, form and style, right? So we are talking about how the drama in particular is formed or structured. So here is now rather, we're going to be talking about specific elements that build up the structure of a drama. So first, we are going to take a look at the plot. So when we talk about the plot, as it is written here, plot is the sequence of events that makes up the story. It presents what happens from the beginning to the end. So technically speaking, we are talking about the storyline. How is the story flowing? How is the story going from the start to the finish? So plot is usually simple and focused. Okay, so particularly in a one-act play, when we talk about plot, we talk about simple plot because it's simply a 10-minute in maximum kind of a play. So, however, plot can take different forms. It could be linear, like in a chronological order, there's a specific beginning, middle, and ending. However, there are some types that could play around the sequence of events, and we call that flashback or fragmented or nonlinear or thematic that is focused on the theme itself. Like each act is focused on the theme. There's no specific beginning, ending, or beginning, middle, ending thing. Or also, uh, other types that we are going to talk about today. So this plot types show how conflict and resolution appears within the short format. Okay, so again, when we talk about plot, we talk about the storyline. How does the story goes? Okay? All right. So, first type of a plot is what we call a linear plot. Again, this is the most common one. This is the most common type of plot and believed to be the easiest because there is a specific beginning, middle, and ending. So the events unfold in chronological order. There's a clear beginning, clear middle, and clear end. And it is the most common in traditional one-act plays because, again, as I have mentioned, when we talk about one-act play, it's not like a full-length drama that could take 5 acts or more. When we talk about one act play from the term itself, it's a simple single act. So everything must be clear. That we have no time for foreshadowing or whatever. When we are talking about one act play, we talk about straight, direct revelation of events. Okay, so that's why when you are going to create your own script at the end of the term, it is advisable that you would take on the most common traditional type of a plot, which is a linear plot. So it follows different stages. So there is an element of a plot, and in a linear plot, it is strictly followed. So there is what we call an exposition where the characters, the setting, and the situation are introduced. Then there is the rising action, wherein the problem, complications, issues are starting to pop up, start, and begin or show up. So this is where the tension starts to build up. Next is the climax, or of course, as we know, the highest point of the story, wherein the emotions, feelings are on the top. And this is also considered as the most exciting part of the story. After that, in a linear plot, after the most exciting, this is where the feelings, the emotions starts to subside. Okay, so that's what we call the falling action, wherein the consequences of the problem, consequences of the issue, consequences of the conflict is starting to be resolved or starting to be experienced. So the emotions now are subsiding. And the resolution or the denouement or the ending of the story. So typically in a linear plot, there are only five moments: introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, and then the resolution. And as you see, in a one act play, in a linear plot, there is just one single problem. And here is how can we uh, visualize it. A linear plot can be visualized this way. Yeah, like that. Like a graph rising and falling. Okay. So you see here the introduction. Okay. This is where people, characters, setting, and everything is being setting up. Being set up rather. So the rising action, the tension, and then the climax, the turning point, falling action, and then the resolution. So again, it's a linear one line. Although the line is moving upward and downward because its movement represents the emotions being felt during that time. So in a linear plot, again, one line, one way, okay, from low emotion, eventually rising, and then to the highest, and then after that, of course, when you're already at the top, there's nowhere to go but down. So the emotion is now subsiding up to the resolution, wherein the conflict is resolved and the outcome has been revealed. Okay, so that's for the most common kind of plot in a one act play. Alright, so next, after a linear plot, we also have what we call nonlinear plot. Of course, from the term itself, people, we don't have to complicate things out here. Okay? Again, I'm advising you to use the linear plot for the one act play because it is the most advisable. However, for the purpose of knowledge and for the purpose of being informed, we are discussing different kinds of plot. But again, for our comfort, for the purpose of easy writing of the story, what I would suggest is that you would use the linear plot. Again, we are working with a one act play. We have no time for foreshadowing, further explanation, and development of characters rather. So what I would suggest is that we are going to focus on not the linear plot, because it's the most common and it's the easiest when we are writing one act play. But again, just for the purpose of being informed, being aware that it is not only non-linear plot, so also would be able to, understand different drama whenever you watch it, whenever you read a certain story, you would know that, oh, it's not really a fragmented type of story. It's just that it's not linear. It's just that it's not the most common type. Okay, so the second type is what we call the non-linear plot. So as we can read, events are presented out of sequence. There is no clear beginning, middle, and ending. So there happens to be a flashback, then going back to the present, and another flashback. So recently, I have watched a film on Netflix. I just forgot the title, but it was Jericho Rosales and Ann Curtis who are the main characters. And yeah, the kind of plot there is a linear plot. So if I only have time, I would look for its name, but yeah, I'm trying to remember it now. So, if you watch it, you would also know the title for a while. Yeah, the loved one, yeah. I have searched the internet and it has revealed that the title of that 2026 Philippine romantic drama is The Loved One. So, in that story, in that movie, The Loved One, Jericho and Anne, of course, they loved each other. And again, the plot there is non-linear. There's a moment that they're in the present, and then they were going back to the flashback, or in the POV of Jericho, or the character of Jericho Salas, and POV of Anne Curtis. So, technically speaking, audience are the ones who would piece together the story from different time frames. Okay, so they would be the one to connect the puzzles together and understand the story. And in this kind of a plot, the suspense is emphasized rather than its chronological order. It's like when you watch The Loved One, you would somehow, what happened? Ask yourself what happened, and then later on, okay, that's why. So as the audience, you'd be the one charged to put the story together and understand it. So again, that's why at this very point of time, I'm telling you that the safest plot to use in a one act play is the linear one. Okay, because that's the most common and that's the easiest to understand compared to the non-linear plot. But again, this kind of plot, again, the audience, we are the ones to to connect the story together, charged to connect the story together and understand it, because it has no specific chronological order. Okay, so that's how the story goes in a non-linear plot. You see the arrows from the flashback to the scene A to the scene B, and I mean, there's no specific. Okay, there's a jump ahead to future event, and then there's a flashback, there's a present moment. So if you would take a look uh, at the illustration there, I like with the linear one. See, the linear one, the direction is just one direction. One direction. One direction, Liam Payne, and the others? No, no. So, in a non-linear plot, there's no specific direction of story. Again, as the audience, we are the ones charged to put them together. Okay? So, understand? Non-linear? Linear has one direction, single storyline. With a linear plot, there is, a shuffle of direction. One scene, we are in the present. The other scene, we are in the future. The other scene, we are 2 years ahead, and like that. It's up to the writer or the playwright himself or herself. Okay, so that's the second one. The third one is what we call a thematic plot. So from the term itself, my dear grade 9, we don't have to complicate things out here. When we talk about a thematic plot, we are talking about The plot is focusing less on the events and more on exploring the theme. Okay, so somehow it's complicated because in a linear plot, the events are chronological. Okay, we begin here, then this would be the next one, and this would be the climax, this will be the resolution, or following action first and then the resolution. In a thematic plot, scenes may be symbolic or episodic. So, this one is challenging to be used in a one-act play again because we are only having a maximum of a 10-minute play in a one-act play. So, there's no enough time for us to explain or use many symbols. Okay, so although a thematic plot is perfect for discussing plays that highlights values like justice, unity, compassion, and the like, using multiple scenes, but this one is somehow complicated because the stories they are not really connected to each other. It's like in each scene there's a single theme. Like for example, if you know Shake, Rattle, and Roll movies in the Philippines, okay, uh, the central theme is central motive. It's horror, but uh, each episode there's a different story or a different story, right? All right, so but still focusing on a single plot. So it's like that. So scene A is about charity, scene B is about unity, scene C is about inner peace, and scene D would be about social justice, and they would all connect to a central theme bigger than this four. Okay, so again, I'm not advising you to use this because it's way too complicated for us. And considering also that what we what we will be working on in the end term would be a one-act play, this is not advisable. Okay, all right. So the next one is what we call a conflict-driven plot. So this kind of one, or this kind of a plot, is from the term itself built around a single conflict. Could either be internal in the characters or external outside the characters. So in our next lesson, we are going to focus more on different types of of conflict. But again, I know you know them like character versus character, character versus himself, and the like. So in this kind of plot, the tension escalates quickly and quickly resolved within the act. Okay, so there's one conflict. The conflict is the one that drives the story, okay, and it's quickly resolved within the act. So this one, just like the linear one, could be used in a one act play. Okay, so there's a struggle, there's inner peace, and there's solution. So obviously it's a linear plot also. There's the rising could be the beginning, the middle, and the ending. But again, it is more focused on the conflict or the dilemma, but still simple because there's a problem, there's a solution. Okay, so just that. Uh, there would be a problem, and the ending would be the solution. So just like a linear plot. Now, I think that this would be the last one. This is what we call a circular plot, where the play ends where it began, emphasizing repetition or futility. Often it is used in absurdist or symbolic one-act plays, perfect for plays that explore everyday cycles or unchanging realities. So, in the circular plot, the ending would also be the beginning. Okay, so the beginning and then the climax and then sets of events and then back to the beginning. I mean, for example, would be uh the example for a circular plot. I'm sorry, I cannot bring it back anymore. Okay, the example for the circular plot before we go to the character is for if the story begins with the character working on her laptop or doing something, dancing, the story would also end that way. Okay, so that's the circular plot. So that's for the plot. So that's the first type. Second type would be character and characterization. It goes together. So when we talk about character people, we don't have to complicate things out here. We talk about the people, animals, or figures who take part in the action of the drama. So the types of character could be protagonist, the main character who drive the story forward, like for example Romeo in Romeo and Juliet, or Juliet herself as well. So they were the main good characters. So protagonist is the main character who drives the story forward. They were the good ones. When you are pro, you're the good. And of course, if we have the protagonist, we also have the antagonist. Okay, so the protagonist is the good one. The antagonist is the opposing force or the bad one. I mean, could either be. Like, for example, if we change POV, if I am T-Bot, my antagonist is Romeo. If I'm Romeo, my antagonist is T-Bot. So it could be anyone. Depends on who you take a look at. Okay, so, uh, antagonist is the opposing force and the character who creates the conflict, the bad one. Alright? So, in the light of Romeo and Juliet, of course, if Romeo and Juliet are the good ones, Tybalt is the bad one. He's the one who creates the conflict. Uh, Another character, I think it's new to your vocabulary. We call it a foil. If you are a foil, you are the character who contrasts with another to highlight traits. Like you show complete opposite, not only being a good boy and a bad boy, or a bad character in morals, or a good one over a good one. So here, it's like you can be both protagonists, but you show complete opposite of characteristics or traits. Like for example, Romeo is romantic in nature, and a foil or an opposite of that is Mercutio. So Mercutio is a foil to Romeo because they show contrast in views of love. Because if you read or watch Romeo and Juliet as a play, you'll see that Romeo is really a romantic type of guy. And if you take a look at Mercutio, there is a particular scene in Act 1, if I'm not mistaken, that's Act 4, wherein Mercutio is trying to tell Romeo that, love is not about being romantic. It's about just a physical attraction or somehow sexual attraction towards somebody. So for that's how we show foil. In another type of drama, if you're familiar with Pride and Prejudice, the Bennet sisters, Mary, the third daughter, the middle child of five, is the foil to all her sisters, particularly to Elizabeth Bennet, because Elizabeth is outspoken, while Mary is reserved. So that's how foil goes. Okay. Another type of character are supporting characters. From the term itself, they were supporting, so they were helping to develop the plot. They are not the main ones, but the plot would not be complete without them. Like in Romeo and Juliet, the nurse and Father Lawrence, they were not main characters. They were not the focus of the story, but they were important in a sense that the plot, the theme, the storyline will not be complete without them. Okay? Next type is a flat character. Now, these two types, the last two types, the flat and the round, could be identified in the other mentioned type of characters. So, when we talk about a plot character, we talk about a simple type of character, one-dimensional one. I mean, this kind of character shows only few traits. Like, for example, a messenger or servant in Romeo and Juliet. Like, from the beginning to the end, their only job is to serve. They have no much to say. Uh, their only purpose is to do what they are asked to do. Okay, so there's no character development. I mean, if a character is flat rather, plot, if the character is flat, what he is or she is in the beginning would still be the same trait up to the end. It's not changing. It's one dimensional. What you see is what you get in this kind of character. So most of the time, this kind of character, character trait being one dimensional is given to supporting characters like the nurse, okay, and Father Lawrence, and others, okay. Around characters, they were complex, realistic, and they show growth or change. So this kind of characters are given to the main character. Meaning, when we say they're round, they are developing. There's what we call character development. There's changes. They don't remain as they are in the beginning. Okay, so again, flat and round could be a given and identified to other types of characters mentioned a while ago. And when we talk about characterization, it's together with a character. So this is where the playwright reveals personality, motives, and relationship of these characters. This is like making the story at the character who he is. Okay, so when we talk about character, we talk about the definition, who's the character, uh, where is he from, and the like. Now, when we talk about characterization, we talk about giving the soul, personality to it. I mean, like for example, I. If we talk about myself as character, I'm Race. My name, my job, I'm a teacher. But when we talk about characterization, we're talking about more of my personality. So to be revealed on how I talk, how I understand things, and the like. Okay, so that's how. Okay, so let's take a look at how characterization is formed. So, characterization technique one is through the dialogue. Your character's identity would be developed, or characteristics would be developed on depending on what he or she says. In the action, on what they does, how they behave, could talk about their characteristics, okay? Reactions on how their the character respond to other or respond to them, and through stage directions, and how you as a playwright or us as playwright in the future, how are we going to make them move? Like for example, remember Arthur Miller in his way of giving stage direction in the play The Crucible. The emotion is very descriptive. So it's very helpful in the characterization. Also, as an actor, in the point of view of an actor, for example, so you would have an idea on how to write it. When we talk about characterization, you are technically stepping on the personality of that character. For example, if I'm Mamrace and I'll be playing Juliet, I'm Mamrace outside the stage. But when I enter the stage, I'm no longer myself, but the character. I'm no longer Race, but Juliet, you know? So that would be what we call characterization. Your personality should be the personality of the character. Okay? So as a writer, you would achieve that using the things that we have mentioned: dialogue, reaction, stage directions, and the others that had been mentioned a while ago. Next, we have also the appearance. Characterization would also be developed through the appearance using the costume, the gestures, and the physical traits. Again, we are giving characteristics to the character itself. More than just the name, more than just definition, we are making it whole. That's why character and characterization goes together. The character specifically talks about the name, description, and the like, but characterization talks about the wholeness of the character itself. It's like it's giving the it's peopleizing, if that term exists. It's peopleizing, humanizing the character. It's giving the characteristics of the character itself. Okay? So, one thing to remember in a character and characterization, in a wanna play, characterization must be quick. Okay? It must be very fast. Because we only have limited time. We only have a single act. 5 scenes, 10 scenes in maximum. So, when you are working on a characterization, you have to be quick, efficient, and direct. So, each line that they say, each gesture that they do, it contributes to the understanding of character's role and values. So, as a writer, you have to be careful. You have to really be quick in doing what you have to do. Also, in a one-act play, characters often represent individual or communal values. Like, when we talk about individual or communal values, individual is a personal value. Communal value is a value of the community. Okay, so again, it's a one-act play, so technically the theme would be something that happens in everyday life, okay, or something that we normal people value. So in a one-act play, there's no such thing as fairies and other types of characters. Characters here are real life characters, real people. No fictional elements. And one thing, in a one-act play, maximum number of characters is 10. Again, why? Because we only have limited time. We cannot have uh, a lot of characters to introduce and not be able to give justice to them. So 5 to 10 characters would do. Remember, well, Wanted a Chaperone, one that we have done last year. The characters there are less than 10. Nena, Doña Petra, uh, and the others. Only 5 to 10 characters. So that's one thing you have to remember. Characters in number in a one-act play is only limited. 10 is the maximum. So, characterization through dialogue as an example. So here, the teacher says integrity is worth more than any grade, and the students like everyone does it. So through dialogue, we can say that the teacher is a man of her words. Like for him, integrity is important. The dialogue reveals their values, and I know you can see, as you can see here, the dialogue reveals the values of the character. So depends on what they say, shows what they value the most. As they say, your mouth would speak what your heart is full of. So simple as that. So a setting, third type or a third element. So first we have plot, second we have character and characterization, third is the setting. So it simply refers to the time and place where the events of the play occur. So I mean we have already encountered it before, right? I believe when you are studying in your earlier years, this is not new to you. So one addition is that it does not only talk about time and place, but also talks about how does it feel on that moment? What is the weather? Things like that. Okay, so physical environment, historical period, social context, and atmosphere that influence rather the characters and the plot. So what builds up is the setting versus the time. When the story happens, is it in the past, in the present, or future? What time of the day, what season, or what historical era? So, example, one morning in a modern classroom. That could be a setting. I mean, in a one-act play, everything is simple. Okay? Again, what I want you to remember is that in a one-act play, we focus on what happens every day. Okay? What happens on a daily life, on one's daily life. The place, of course, where did the story happen? What's the location? What's the room? What's the environment? It could be a small cafe, a courtroom, or a living room, just like in a Wanted Chaperone. Social context. What's the cultural, political, or social background affecting the characters? A strict school system, a war-torn country, or like for example, in a Wanted a Chaperone, that's a time when uh, uh, influence of colonization is very important. The atmosphere and the mood talks about emotional tone created by the setting. How does it feel? Okay, so again, as I have mentioned a while ago, setting is not only about time and place. It also talks about how does it feel to that moment. Is it tensed? Is it hopeful? Is it gloomy? Is it joyful? So in movies, we commonly, like for example, in a horror film, it always starts with a thunderstorm or something that is gloomy, dark for a horror story. And for a love story, it's always joyful, the sky is blue, or the roses are red, things like that. So those things help the atmosphere or the mood or the build-up of settings. So, role of a setting in a one-act play is that a setting establishes the context for action, it reflects the character's emotional conflicts, or simply explains why do they behave that way. Okay, and setting also supports theme and helps achieve organic unity because at the end of the day, when you know what is the setup, what is the context, you would understand. Oh, that's why. That's why, for example, they act that way because that's how they were set up. Okay, so in a one-act play, setting is usually simple and focused, and often only one one location to maintain intensity and coherence. Like for example, for Rizal A, I mean, at least you were the ones whom I have asked to watch former Rizal A last year. You can see that in a one-act play, like for example in Wanted the Chaperone, the setting does not change. It all happened on the sala of the family of Nena, right? So yeah, in a one-act play, again, we don't have much time to change location. There's no such thing as opening close of a curtain. In a one-act play, once the curtain, the drape opens, it only closes at the end. So there's no enough time to change location. So it's only one place. Focus on one place. The theme, yeah, we don't have to complicate here because we already have discussed this in lesson 2. Okay, so this is technically the lesson or the moral embedded in your storyline. What do you want others to learn from you? Okay, what is the focus, the values that your audience, your readers would learn from your drama, from your story? Okay, and of course, the dialogue are essential elements because without it, the characters would not be able to say anything. So these are the spoken exchange between characters in a play and it reveals their thoughts, their emotions, and their relationships and motivations. So technically, these are what they say, the characters say in the story. And in a one-act play, this element dialogue carries the most of the storytelling. I mean, there's no such thing as narrator. So again, we're working on a one-act play, so you have to be straight and quick. We only have limited time and few scenes, so we have to go direct to the point. There's no going around the bush anymore. Hit it when you have to hit it. Understood? So, characteristics of an effective dialogue. How can you say that your dialogue is effective? It is very important in a one-act play because, again, we have to hit it when we have to hit it. We don't have to go around the bush and use flowery language anymore. We have to go straight to the point. So, first, it would be an effective dialogue if it is natural and believable, sounds like a real speech of a real person, if it is purposeful, if every line reveals something important, if it is concise, short, but focused, especially in one act plays, if it is emotionally charged, if you can feel the feelings through tone and rhythm, and if it is reflective of the character, it matches the background and the personality of the character specifically. Okay? The diction, again, we have already talked about it when we talk about the style. So this is a simpler term for the playwright's style. Okay, choice of words, expression of the writer, the playwright used to give to the characters. It shapes how the dialogue sounds, reveal character traits, and set the moods and conveys the themes. Like for example, again, when we have discussed this with uh style and form, okay, so Shakespeare, for example, in his style, we can see the social status, remember, of characters depending on how they speak. Like the nobles, like Romeo and Juliet, they speak poetic, but the normal people or the supporting characters like the nurse, they speak like normal people in a prose way. Okay, so again, we don't have to complicate things out here. The mood is the emotional atmosphere. How does it feel? Right? So how does it feel? How does the play feel? It influences how also the audience would feel while watching the performance. So technically the mood is how the feels. Okay? How should you want your audience to feel while they are watching the performance, while they are reading your script or your story? So it talks about the appeal to the heart, to the emotion of your audience. So in a wanna play a mood must be established quickly. Again, one thing that I hope you notice by now is everything in wanna play is quick. Everything in wanna play is fast paced, direct to the point. Again, because we only have a short format type of a drama. So again, as I would repeat, and I would love to repeat one more, we do not have ample time. We have to hit it directly when we have to hit it. Okay? Understood? Alright. So, how to create the moods? Same with setting, or same with characterization. You use the dialogue, your word choice, tone of speech. Like for example, in Socrates, where than more is worth more than any grade. Is a serious mood, or through the setting, and time and place and atmosphere. In a sinister type of movie like The Crucible, there's a stormy night, thunderstorms, and the like. And using spectacle or props in the actual stage, like bright lights and cheerful music for joyful mood, and music, background or sounds. I mean, these things, these elements, dialogue, setting, spectacle, music, and sound, they create the mood of the play. Okay? Next is what we call a spectacle. So, spectacle is a technical term in drama that refers to the visual and sensory elements of play. I mean, this technically speaks of the props and the other things that set up what the audience see and hear. This also can talk about costumes, makeup, and everything that builds up the play except the people. Okay, the things that we see and hear on stage. It includes the scenery, like the backdrop, the costumes, the props, the lighting, sound effects, and even stage movements. We talk about those are spectacles. Okay, in a wanna play, because I mean we're talking about drama, yes, but our emphasis is on a one-act play because that's what you are to do at the end of the term, right? Right? Spectacle is usually simple but powerful, supporting the mood and theme without overwhelming short format. Simple but powerful. Again, the thing that we want to represent here in a one-act play is things that happen on a daily life. Okay. Next, okay, these are the elements of a spectacle. So you just have to take a look at them for easy understanding. Okay, I mean, you can check the PowerPoint attached to this. So, elements are set, costume props, lighting, sound, music, and movement are blocking. So, physical environment, clothing or costumes, of course. Props are objects used by the characters. Lighting create the mood. Sound, of course, background. Okay, so these are examples. Okay, simple examples of what I have mentioned already. Then, of course, music is important in a play. I mean, have you ever watched a play without sound effects? Right? It's boring without sound effects. So, music technically refers to the use of sound, rhythm, and melody in a play. I mean, music does not always have to be sound effects, but the rhythm, like how do they speak, you know, how does the character say the word, could create rhythm in music. Can be live or recorded and enhances the emotional impact, atmosphere, and pacing of the performance. I mean, again, it adds energy to the play. Uh, a play without music is boring. Noana play music is often minimal but carefully chosen to highlight the mood of the theme. I mean, Noana play it's not really required. It's only few, but it's meticulously chosen because it may either make or break the scene, right? One wrong music can influence the. I mean, as you've seen a while ago, music can also affect the mood, right? So one wrong music may ruin the mood of the play. So it that is how it is carefully chosen. So yeah, that's the function of music. It sets the mood, supports the theme, signals transition, and heightens emotion and provides rhythm. Okay, so these are examples. Like for example, if you want to have a reflective theme, you know sound effects like when your classmate is sharing something is that is so sad, you will somehow play in your mind a soft music also. Or if it is funny, then a funny music, like for example in a comedy show, like it supports the theme because music reinforces central idea to symbolic songs. Like if it is about faith, hymns are played. If it signals, it also signals a transition. So there's a drum beat before climax. Dun, 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 dun. Or for example, in Romeo and Juliet, there's a signal, a sound signal. When Prince Escalus is coming, there would be trumpets. Okay, so things like that. Now, the last structural element of drama is what we call a point of view. So, point of view mean this is not hard to understand. You don't have to complicate things out here, just like I always say. So, point of view, of course, as you know, I know you know it. In the drama, it refers to how we view the story, or how do we want to experience the story from where, from whom do we want to look the story at. So it is revealed through the character's dialogue, the actions, and stage directions. Again, as I have mentioned a while ago, the story of the movie of Anne and Jericho, the loved one, POV changes from Anne's to Jericho's POV. So you would understand what Anne felt that. I mean, there's a particular scene wherein there's a single scene, but it was shown in different perspective in a POV of Anne's character and in the POV of Jericho's character. So again, it depends on how we view it. As they say, it's like explaining POV in a saying. It's beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It depends on how you see it. So the story may be experienced differently depending on how we choose to see it or how we choose to reveal the storyline as a writer, right? Okay, so in a one-act play, POV is crucial because the short format requires clarity, but whose perspective drives the theme. So there's no such thing as POV, this POV or that POV. Most of the time, it's linear. Okay, it's linear, one single storyline. So few reminders of what one act play is. before I end. Okay, so one act play is a complete play that is performed in one act without intermission. So this is what I was saying a while ago when I say that when the curtain opens in a one act play, it will only close at the end. Okay, it is usually shorter than a full-length play and can be performed in a variety of settings, such as a small theater, a classroom, or even outside. Remember, we have performed Wanted the Chaperone last year with Rizal A in the AVR, only in the AVR. Other sections made it or performed it only inside their classroom. In the previous years, I have been doing one act play during the third quarter. We are only doing it inside the classroom. And one act play can be comedic or dramatic. And again, one highlight is that it only often explore a single theme or idea. That's why again, I told you that if you're gonna choose a plot, you would choose a linear plot only because we're only exploring one single theme. So a one act play typically have a simple structure, includes introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. Linear. Okay, because they are shorter than a full length play. One act play often focus on a single event, moment in time, than a complex storyline. So it's only, for example, in a Wanted the Chaperone, we are not actually the right. We did not uh care about what's the background of Petra and the others. We only talked about one moment when Nena went out with Fred without a chaperone and what does it cost their family. So simple, as simple as that. So characters in one play are often limited in number. This is what I'm telling you a while ago. 5 to 10 characters would do. Right? And they are developed quickly and efficiently in characterization. Also, one act play requires concise writing, efficient storytelling to effectively convey their message within limited amount of time, and they have small cast of characters that allows for more in-depth character development. And again, these are only few reminders. One act plays can be performed with minimal sets, props, and costumes, which makes them ideal for smaller productions and venues. They often explore a single theme or idea in depth, rather than trying to cover multiple scenes or a single uh, in a single time. And lastly, when we talk about one act play, it is benefiting for new aspiring playwrights like you, like grade nines, because they are shorter, less complex than a full length length. And you can just simply talk about one time, like your favorite part of your life, or your dream, or one favorite thing that one unforgettable scene in your life, right? So they're uh, also a great option for school or community theaters that may have limited resources or budget. Because again, if we want to experience play, we can have them do a one-act play instead, not a full length. So there would only be fewer characters, one setup. There's no changes of scene, no changes of props, just one setting. Okay, understood? So before I end it I end this, of course, I hope that you are in a safe and dry situation, given that the reason why I opted to have recording is I don't want us to be far behind the timeline. So I hope that you would find time to watch it and not simply skip it. I trust that you appreciate the effort that I have created a video lesson for all of you. And if you have questions, you may send queries and inquiries in through our group chat. You may utilize that, and I'll be uploading this to our LMS also, and be sending this to our group chat so those who cannot access their LMS may still watch. And I hope again that you are in a safe situation. Always pray because above everything, God is in control. And I think that will be all for today. I hope you have a great day and God bless. Keep safe, and that will be all for today. Goodbye. Thank you, grade 9.